My name is Brian Scribonia, and on this episode of the Common Sense Financial Podcast, my approach to this problem is fairly simple. Avoid using the stock market as a means to draw income because you have zero control over the outcome. It's gambling and basically trusting that the government and Wall Street are going to do what is best for your portfolio. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, but every day I see headlines that leave me scratching my head and wondering how this circus is going to end.
Well, hey, everybody, and thank you for listening and joining us today. We hope that this podcast can provide you with some insights to help you grow and get closer to your goals this year. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. That way you'll be notified about new content and you'll be able to listen to Brian tackle a variety of different topics. So you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, pretty much anywhere that podcasts can be found. And all the links to subscribe as well as past episodes are available on the website at brianscribonia.com. So thanks again for tuning in, and let's get started.
Opportunities are still there.
The attempt at passing down wealth from generation to generation.
Consider the outcome, not just popular opinion.
And the whole teaching there is about preparedness and being ready.
There's a difference between what's real and what's true. You're listening to the Common Sense Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Scribonia. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get into today's topic. Retirement is a major financial milestone for many individuals. However, there's a significant blind spot that many people have when it comes to retirement planning, which is the potential for living longer in retirement than they actually worked. And in the past, we have seen people retire at age 65, live for another 10, 15 years. However, with the advancements in longevity science, people are living longer. And the idea of living 15 years or more in retirement, in my opinion, is a vast understatement. According to a 2019 study by the Centers for Disease Control, a 65-year-old man today can expect to live on average until age 76, while a 65-year-old woman can expect to live until around 81. However, these numbers are just averages, and many people will live well into their 90s or even beyond. In fact, according to a 2016 Pew Research study, the number of people living to 100 years old is increasing rapidly. This increased life expectancy means that people will necessarily need to save more money for retirement, and the money they have will need to be preserved to help avoid running out of money. With people living longer than ever, I feel that it is entirely possible to be retired for as many years as you've worked. Just consider this. You begin working at age 20, work for 40 years until age 60, then retire, and then you live to age 100. That is 80 years of an increasing income need, with you quitting midway through to retire and then begin relying on your assets to sustain you. There are many variables that go into creating streams of income in retirement while protecting that source of income. It can be challenging, especially given the unpredictable and volatile nature of the stock market. According to a 2019 Retirement Confidence Survey conducted by the Employee Benefit Research Institute, which is EBRI, more than half of American households are at risk of running out of money in retirement due to a lack of savings and the unpredictability of the stock market. Therefore, it is important for retirees to plan and invest carefully to ensure that they have a reliable source of income throughout retirement years. Think about when you first started your career and how much money you were making. Then fast forward to today and compare the difference. Hopefully that number has increased, but looking back, you likely found that those increases weren't always a lifestyle enhancement, but rather just an inflation adjustment. To illustrate the point, an inflation rate of just 2% can seem like a small figure, but when you multiply this over 10 years, it translates to 20% or 20 cents on a dollar. In other words, a $50,000 salary today will require you to earn $60,000 in 10 years. So if you make $50,000 today, in 20 years you would need $72,000 of income to live the same lifestyle. And in 40 years you would need $108,000 to live the same lifestyle your $50,000 is providing today. So according to a study by the EBRI, only 42% of Americans have tried to actually calculate how much money they will need to have for retirement. This is quite shocking considering what's at risk. I have mentioned this before on other shows, but I think it's worth sharing again. I find that most people have arbitrary figures for how much they want to have saved for retirement. I hear figures thrown around that are often nothing more than rounded off, nice sounding numbers. The thought of having millions of dollars is energizing, but what really drives the decision to retire is most often Social Security eligibility, regardless of how much money is being saved. The concern I have with this is that many people I speak with are making decisions based on their present situation while relying too heavily on things they cannot control for their future. It's really a lot to assume, considering so much of what impacts your money is out of your control. The big three are inflation, the markets, and taxes. So to offset inflation, of course, you need to earn more on your money than the inflation rate that is eroding your purchasing power. And then to protect against market losses, you need to either not be in the market at all or work to insulate your portfolio by using very far-reaching diversification strategies that ideally do not completely correlate with the stock market. And then to protect against taxes, you would concentrate on building tax-free assets and stop the propensity to defer taxes for later on down the road. Now, these may seem like common sense moves, but in my experience, so many people are doing the opposite of these things. I see people funding their 401k accounts, which goes against what I'm outlining about taxes. I see people parking money in the bank, not knowing what to do with it, which goes against trying to keep up with inflation. And I see people pouring money into the stock market, often chasing returns and maintaining a narrow approach to their asset allocation. So it's my belief that there should be a strategic plan put in place that addresses these areas and attempts to move things into the retiree's control instead of simply crossing fingers and hoping everything works out. Of course, I do not have a crystal ball, but we have to recognize that when the market is going down, this could be seen as an opportunity to invest money into the market. But when you're retired and withdrawing income from your investments to cover lifestyle expenses, this is a problem. My approach to this problem is fairly simple. Avoid using the stock market as a means to draw income because you have zero control over the outcome. It's gambling and basically trusting that the government and Wall Street are going to do what is best for your portfolio. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, but every day I see headlines that leave me scratching my head and wondering how this circus is going to end. Now, there is a time and a place for public market investing with the long-term time horizon, but the entire meaning behind long-term is not needing the money until a later date. I don't know about you if you remember that infomercial in the 90s by Susan Powter, author of that book, Stop the Insanity. I can still hear that catchphrase in my head as it played so often on TV. According to a 2018 article by some outfit called Mental Floss, Powter made $50 million in 1993 telling people what they already knew. I mean, if you're not healthy, you can't keep doing what you're doing. Eat right, exercise more, same thing we hear on a regular basis. We know it to be true. I bring this up because I think the same can be said about retirement planning, right? If you're at or in retirement, needing income from your assets and feeling uneasy about how the market has performed over the last 20 years, you may want to stop doing what you're doing. Now, I realize that all my asset management friends reading this or listening to this are shaking their fists at me saying that the market will be fine. We just have to give it time. And I don't necessarily disagree. I believe that the markets are likely to recover, but my question is, at what cost for those drawing income to live on? Yes, the market cycles up and down, so we have no reason to believe this time is any different. But according to a recent inquiry using ChatGPT, if you retire on January 1st of 2000 and began drawing $50,000 of income from $1 million portfolio invested to match the S&P 500, you would have run out of money in 2008. Yes, the market has recovered since then after 2008, but discussing the market as a whole is not the same as someone who is retired taking income from their investments. What should be understood is that accumulating money is done one way and drawing income for retirement is done another way. They are not the same thing. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need to differentiate the two. The bottom line for me is this: retirement planning is not something to be taken lightly. Underestimating the amount of money needed to maintain a comfortable lifestyle in retirement or relying on too many things outside of your control can be a significant financial risk. It's recommended, of course, to work with a financial advisor who specializes in distribution to find an optimal strategy for the potential of living longer than anticipated in retirement. With careful planning, retirees can focus on enjoying their golden years instead of dealing with a shortfall of income later in life. If you want to learn more about retirement strategies and what they can mean for your retirement, visit yourgapreport.com. That concludes today's podcast. I'm Brian Scribonia. Thanks for listening to the Common Sense Financial Podcast.
Thanks for listening to today's show. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify so that you can receive notifications when we release new episodes. I'm Brian Scribonia, and this is the Common Sense Financial Podcast.
Well, thank you for listening to the Forbes Top 10 rated Common Sense Financial Podcast. Before you go, I want to encourage you to jump over to brianscribonia.com to access the full archive of blogs and podcasts. And if you want to be the first in line to get new content, you can sign up for free on the Brian Scribonia website as well. If you're not following Brian on all the social channels, we'd love to have you join in on the conversation. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, he's there. Lastly, if you've enjoyed listening to today's podcast, or if you have found value in any of our content, help spread the word by sharing our videos, podcasts, and posts wherever you get them. We greatly appreciate it and are glad that you took the time to join us today. Securities offered only by duly registered individuals through Madison Avenue Securities, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through Scribonia Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. Tax services offered only through Scribonia Tax Consulting. Mass does not offer billed banking or tax advice. Scribonia Financial Group, LLC, Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC, Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC, Scribonia Tax Consulting, and billed banking are not affiliated with Mass. Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients and prospective clients where Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Billed banking is a DBA of Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC. Benefits and guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the insurance company, not FDIC-insured. Results may vary. Any descriptions involving life insurance policies and its use as an alternative form of financing or risk management techniques are provided for illustration purposes only, will not apply in all situations, may not be fully indicative of any present or future investments, and may be changed at the discretion of the insurance carrier, general partner, and/or manager, and are not intended to reflect guarantees on securities performance. The term billed banking, private banking alternatives, or specially designed life insurance contracts are not meant to insinuate that the issuer is creating a real bank for its clients or communicating that life insurance companies are the same as traditional banking institutions. This material is educational in nature and should not be deemed as a solicitation of any specific product or service. Billed banking is offered by Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC only and is not offered by Madison Avenue Securities, LLC. Our firm is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by the third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by our firm. References to billed banking, private banking alternatives, or specially designed life insurance contracts are not meant to insinuate that the issuer is creating a real bank for its clients or communicating that life insurance companies are the same as traditional banking institutions. This material is informational in nature and should not be deemed as a solicitation of any specific product or service. Billed banking is not FDIC insured. Billed banking is offered by Scribonia Insurance Services, LLC only, and is not offered by Madison Avenue Securities, LLC, nor Scribonia Wealth Management, LLC.